What I aim to achieve is educate as much people as possible that content creation is accessible to everyone and anyone, and that can truly help you grow as a business or as a human being.
Hey Victoria, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Alessandra. I'm good. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you, and very excited about this episode. I already know that we're gonna get very little gems in different categories, right? We're gonna talk about LinkedIn videos and content, and how to do like employee generated content, and also how smaller brands can really get the best out of influencer marketing, all the creator economy. So I'm pretty sure there's gonna be very practical, a lot of actual items for people listening today. But before we get started, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself? And we use this thing called the map. Basically, it's divided in three different sections. The first one is the mission. What do you aim to achieve with your work? The achievements, and if you are really proud of, could be career or life. And the last one is the purpose. So why do you do what you do?
This is a very heavy one. I really struggle with this, but I'll do my very, very best. What I aim to achieve is educate as much people as possible that content creation is accessible to everyone and anyone, and that can truly help you grow as a business or as a human being. In terms of achievements, I've been around, I've done a lot. Might look like a teenager, but I have previously worked in management consulting and worked at Nestle, where I've led on digital marketing, trained salespeople on how to essentially grow their employee and personal brands way before it was even cool to do that on LinkedIn. We did that on LinkedIn. Some of the major achievements was doing the digital communications for Nestle during COVID in times when everything was closed. And I currently work at YouTube, initially in marketing and now in partnerships, where I work with the biggest YouTube creators and I help them grow from zero to millions of subscribers, sometimes in as short as 1 year. I'll just add a bit to my purpose, where I love working with content creators. And of course, they're incredibly artistic people and have 1 million ideas. But I also truly enjoy working with startups. Especially, I've had the honor of working with quite a few female led startups and truly help them grow from, hundreds of profile visits, thousands to tens of thousands traffic, or when it comes to social media, quite a lot with content creation. Because honestly speaking, I do believe that social media and content creation is one of these ways to socially elevate yourself, not just through content, but as in a social lift, where you're a founder who's very broke to a founder who's actually making a great living. So that's also really feeds into my purpose.
Amazing. And I would love to hear, a bit more on now also about like tips and tricks, right? Because again, there is so much these days on the internet. Every day there is a different algorithm, different rules. You have to do this and tomorrow that, right? So let's start talking about, LinkedIn. We already discussed about LinkedIn B2B, influencer marketing, and in general content creation on LinkedIn in the past episodes. Myself, I also started to do more, short form videos. They are fun to do, in my opinion. Like, you need like the initial hook to get the attention and everything. And I can see that they work well, especially now with the dedicated section, right, on LinkedIn, where you can actually just scroll videos. So you also like went viral on LinkedIn. You also create videos that also teach others how to get potentially viral and how to structure the work. Can you tell me a bit more about the main steps and some tips, in your opinion, to get the best content out there for LinkedIn for both individuals but also brands?
Sure. So there's around 4 steps. I'll probably have a fifth bonus step. But in short, just like you said, the most important thing is the hook. I'll reiterate that 90% of your short form video success is from the hook. So if you don't have an interesting hook, just forget about it. Similarly to movies, right? People invest so much money in marketing in that banner of the movie or that cover of the book for a very good reason. If the cover is not good, people are not going to buy. Similarly to this video, if you don't have a very strong hook, people are not going to watch. It's just how we work. So that's the one most important tip. Two, I'd say storytelling, really important. Most people missed out on it. I think, Alessandro, like you said, you're trying out videos. It's such a good way to start, but I do believe that the people who will stay are the ones that have very good storytelling. And pro tip here, if you're doing a video, what I've seen worked really well is having a very strong sense of rhythm. So think of it sometimes as a poem, as a music track, whatever it is, because now we're transformed from just text to listening to something. Even if you're listening without sound, you'll still have the text. So just storytelling will be very, very important, but rhythm too. 3, value. Obviously, if it's a BS piece of content, please just don't even. But there's different ways to show value, as in it could be something incredibly educational, it could be something incredibly funny, it could be something incredibly beautiful that's so aesthetically pleasing that it brings value to the user. So just make sure it's just something that you're so, so, so proud of when you upload. And frankly speaking, I've struggled with this point a lot because you will really, really go on and off of what means. So hook, storytelling, value. And my last point, but this is really important, but this is more about getting ROI from your videos, is a call to action. So I struggle a lot in regards to this. I see so many creators who have millions of followers and are, frankly speaking, sometimes not getting a lot of revenue like at all because they don't have strong call to action. So do think of that, especially if you're a brand listening. Have a very strong call to action, not something incredibly salesy, it just depends on the video, but it could be always something along the lines of follow for part 2. This is probably the last time you're seeing me on the feed, so if you like this content, follow, whatever it is. Or it could be just like an animated sticker that reminds you to follow that creator, but the call to action can really make or break your ROI.
And on this point, it reminds me when I don't recall who exactly, but a content creator was saying many times you just have to say like, "Hey, give me a follow," or if you like these, just like click on the like, right? Just telling, reminding people is that simple.
Oh, 100%. And I mean, a lot of content creators are really shy about that. They're like, "Oh, I don't wanna beg, I don't wanna ask." I'm like, "Yeah, but how are you gonna build loyalty? How are you what by not like, I mean, people are asking in for investment all the time. People are literally asking for money. You're just gonna ask for a follow. You're not asking for much." And 2, I can talk numbers since we're being practical here. So I had a video get 1,000,000 views recently, so around 10 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and I didn't have a call to action there because I was posting for brand awareness, nothing, I don't know. I got maybe, it's something embarrassing, maybe like 200 followers from it. 1 million views, 200 followers, something like that. Disaster. Now I, with intent, make sure to have outro where I say, by the way, PS, I'm ex Nestle, currently at Google. If you're interested, follow for more tips. Now I got 1 million views again on a post. I mean, easily, I think 500 followers. So, like, easily, 5x my followership. And this is, mind you, that a lot of LinkedIn creators right now are complaining that you don't get followers from the videos. But I can bet money on the fact that they just don't have a clear call to action towards the end of their video.
Interesting. Yeah, again, just saying sometimes like,
Yeah.
follow me could help. And what about the hooks instead? Because that is also not easy sometimes, right? Because you have to come up with something very, I don't want to say clever all the time, but getting the attention of people. And we're in the attention economy. How do you come up with hooks? Is it just like yourself? Is it like looking at other things around? Is it ChatGPT prompt help? Is it a combination of things?
Honestly, this one I have a very controversial opinion, but I just believe just do what works. I don't understand when people try to reinvent a hook every single time. I personally, what I've done is, this was easily a while ago, maybe 6 months ago. There was a post that literally had 100 viral hooks or something like that. I downloaded them and they were generic but very, very powerful. Very, very powerful hooks where it said like X tips from X influential person that got me X results in X days or something. So you all you do is fill it out. And of course I make so one, just use hooks that actually genuinely work and change them towards your niche and category. Obviously, don't make it look like you copy pasted, but this is what works. So why the data shows that these are viral hooks. This was from a very good content creator. And then just copy paste. This is what I believe in. Or use a structure again that works for your brand, for your niche, and then again just constantly reinvent. No one notices these things, and even if they do, why would someone judge you for using a system that works? I don't believe in their cooking hooks every single time.
Got it. And in addition to these tips, have you noticed any other common trends for like getting successful, like on LinkedIn specifically when it comes to videos?
Yeah, yeah. So, when it comes to videos specifically. So, obviously there's the trend of the talking head. But I believe that that will change. So there's talking head, meaning, you open your phone and you talk into the camera, you're very charismatic, blah, 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 blah. I believe that the reason it's a trend right now is not because it's actually a format that works. It's just a format that's easiest to create. So then all the CEOs and founders are getting and getting on that trend, and everyone's saying it's a trend. Mm, Works, and it is working right now, so good, so just do it. So what works is like just doing it, and some creators are speculating about creating content 10 videos a week. This is crazy, but I'm sure it will work because that's volume, that's great. So one thing that works is talking heads and volume. Another thing I believe works even better is value. And again, I'll elaborate here. Try doing something different. So people that are constantly going viral right now on LinkedIn, they have out of the box videos. So currently what I have is videos are a bit like, they say, like Instagram like, TikTok like, meaning I have a voiceover where I try to quite powerfully use my voice to, in very nice rhythm, talk about a day in my life or something that bothers me throughout the workday, a lesson that I've learned with some rhythm. Talk about something that works or doesn't work in my workday. But I use B-roll. So I use different videos of me working by the computer, going for a walk. I don't know, working with a colleague in my office. So this is like a level higher, where instead of just recording myself speaking, I have some editing, some rhythm, something to it. And immediately I get a lot more views than a typical talking head. The reason being is because there's a bit more value there. You're just bringing in slightly more quality content where someone knows that you spend time doing that video. That helps. And the third thing I think will work really, really well is when you like go crazy, where there's some creators that do incredibly complex editing skills, and it's also about work and about how their company is growing. That works so well.
And is there anything else in addition to videos that still works on LinkedIn? Because all the time, again, the algorithm is changing, right? Before it was only text, and then text with image, and then carousels, and this and that. What is working now?
Oh, I think obviously text will still work, and at the end of the day, that's the bread and butter of the platform, or that's how at least I perceive it. Yeah, text still works really, really well. One thing that works really, really powerfully, I'm not a huge supporter of it, but if you're a brand that really wants reach now, and I don't know, your CEO is ripping their hair off, try the halo effect, meaning talk about a creator that's massive on LinkedIn. Ideally, if you have a photo with them, great. If not, because creators on LinkedIn tend to be responsive, so that will give you insane reach. I've tried that. I've met a few creators, posted posts about them, and the reach was insane.
Interesting. Yeah, because you're getting content plus the network effect, right? And also the authority of the person.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's a bit different versus other platforms. On LinkedIn, it's all about the comments. I guess a little bit like X/Twitter. So that creator, especially if you took a photo with them, they will immediately respond, and their community will come to your post, pretty much guaranteed. That's not necessarily the case in all other platforms. So if you do that regularly, I mean, you can literally maybe do a series where you, I don't know, roast that creator, or I don't know, have a collaboration with them, or maybe even if it's not a collaboration, but something where you regularly talk to that creator, even if it's a battle, whatever it is, that can be some really, really massive reach. That's how a lot of creators grow, to be honest.
Yeah, you're right, because you're going from your first connections to second degrees of connection and even third, right? Because these days, if someone comments that is not necessarily connected with you, but is connected with someone else you're connected with, right? They're going to see the content and you expand your network. And yeah.
Yeah, that's also exactly what. And then, as we know, or as we don't know, LinkedIn is not just about the posts, right? It's
Yep.
highly, highly also about the comments. So whatever comments you have, so if a big creator comments under your post, it's gonna be shown on so many feeds. So in a way, every time you post, you want to do at least 10 comments, because that way, essentially, your profile goes on someone's feed, where you don't just basically, when you scroll through your feed on LinkedIn, you don't just see the posts. You also see comments. Quite literally, see Alessandro commented under Victoria's photo saying this, and you will see the entire comment. So that's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So leveraging that on top with massive creators will give you reach.
Is your brand ready to amplify its reach? Well, the Influencer Marketing Factory is here for you. We are a global influencer marketing agency helping brands ignite their growth. From influencer identification to campaign strategy, handling legalities and agreements, to managing shipping and logistics, we got you all covered. We work with hundreds of brands across different verticals, from Fortune 500 companies to direct-to-consumer brands. And we don't just stop there. With detailed ROI analysis, we help brands like yours measure success, transforming impressions into conversions. You can find us at theinfluencermarketingfactory.com or just searching the Influencer Marketing Factory on Google.
Fantastic. I could talk about this for hours, but I also want to ask you something now on it's kind of similar, right? But it's still on content, right? In other episodes, we talk many times about UGC, right? So user-generated content. We kind of all know about it. It's been more and more popular. A lot of brands are paying not only anymore, right, influencers with millions of followers, or even like niche influencers, but we all know, right, that they pay also creators that might not have either a following, but they are great and creating content, right? And we already know about that. But something else that have been happening already in the past years, you already kind of mentioned at the beginning of the episode, it's also creating content in a company, but thanks to employees, right? So is the, EGC, right? Employee generated content. They can like a lot of traction on certain platforms, LinkedIn, but not only that, right? Because I saw in the past, especially when it comes to consumer goods, a lot of TikTok videos of employee in the store, for instance, right? Talking about a product. And it's always interesting. Certain companies love it and they actually, either compensate or help creators, like employees becoming creators. Other companies are like, you cannot do that. We don't really like these. Please stop now, right? I see both of them. But let's say that instead, the company listening now is, I want to look into this. I want to have my employees actually becoming creators and generating content for my company. Let's start with that. Like, first of all, is it something that comes natural? Is it something that should come from management? Tell me a bit more about that.
I think depends on your organization, but I'd say most organizations can take advantage of this. It's like such a great way to grow, honestly. So Nestle is quite good about it, and I've personally trained salespeople to grow on LinkedIn specifically back in, I believe, 2018, 2019. So way before it was cool. And I'd say basically, in short, it's not easy, but it's so worth it. So let's say you have a sales force. I think that's typically when you need this the most. So you have a bunch of salespeople that are out there selling your product. They are representing your brand already one-on-one in person. Why don't you want them to represent your brand on social media? And moreover, I'd say if you're the kind of brand that says, no, we don't like this, don't do this. What? I'm sorry. Excuse me. What? Like these salespeople are already doing this in person by knocking on the door of that person or cold calling them. Why are they not allowed to do this at scale? What do you mean? I think it's a must that you have a way to give them the right tools to empower them. Like a must. If you're not doing that, you're literally closing down a very significant sales channel for yourself because you believe you can't create a tool to empower these salespeople. So a way to do this is one, have a very solid tool. I don't necessarily recommend that much, but if you have a massive organization, that would be very, very helpful. Nestle was doing that. We had a tool, literally intranet, that you log in and automatically you get these shortlisted posts that you can literally copy paste. You click on it and voila, you have a LinkedIn post, a Facebook post, whatever post that's already approved by the organization. So that's one way you can do it. Then there's the mechanism way of like you have a person in-house or even an agency, whoever it is, or you are like just a manager that wants to get this kick started. One, have a quick training with your sales team and explain to them the value of it, the benefit of it, what works, what doesn't work, but don't scare them and say that if you post something, you get fired. Please don't do that. I mean, with social media, it's a risky environment, but that's what it is. It's like high risk, high return. So you need to be okay with mistakes happening. And if they do happen, just, ask that employee to make sure they delete things. Obviously, if you're a publicly traded company, that's a bit different. Well, then you have enough resources and you probably don't need this podcast. Right. Basically, one, train your sales team, make sure it's like make them not feel afraid. Two, create a mechanism of ongoing communication. In our situation was we had a WhatsApp group where we regularly posted updates. I created this program that was called Post Tuesday. So every single Tuesday, I would send a post that they're all more than welcome to just copy paste and put it on their LinkedIn page in a way to incentivize them. Then I also did a repost Thursday where I would recommend people to repost something on Thursday. So that way, the sales team knew that every Tuesday and every Thursday, there was this like post Tuesday and repost Thursday, and it was like an alarm clock following through. Now, in terms of how this works, first few months, people will be excited, probably will do this for you. later down the line they won't. So here, very, very important part of the mechanism, keep going for at least a year. I know this sounds really difficult or sad, but that's unfortunately how ambassadorship works. It takes time to build this even internally. But what will happen over time, over that year, some of your employees will be those dedicated people and they'll keep posting every Tuesday and Thursday and they'll keep following your steps. And this is when they become those superstars. I had people who grew to 5,000 on LinkedIn. Back then in 2018, 2019, that was a big deal. And the product was quite difficult. It was coffee. It wasn't that they were talking about like productivity tips. They were talking about coffee machines. So that was the bit. So then I had these people who would grow. And this is where the last step comes in, is then you do like a stars program where you get these people to train the rest of the sales team. So that way you're not the only one. You then have like proper ambassadorship internally. That way it's just like becomes this very positive mechanism of reinforcing itself. So one, train your sales team, don't make them afraid. Two, have an ongoing communication, very, very simple, to constantly remind them. Unfortunately, you would need to do it for a very long time in order to get true ambassadorship. Three, once those ambassadors start growing, probably after a year, make sure they truly start representing and training the rest of the sales team. And slowly you'll have true influencers in-house that will constantly train others and keep growing the brand essentially for free.
Fantastic. When it comes to these, would you give still, let's say, one year passed, right? And you help them with the sort of copy pasted already, approved content, especially if, as we said, like either a public traded company or a big company with a lot of like, PR and policies in place. Would you then potentially say and allow people within certain guidelines also to come up with their own content, or it's too risky?
100%. So, yes, I didn't include this as much into the mechanism, but basically, what we also allowed people to do as much as possible is we had certain days where we said, this is World's Coffee Day. How about, take a picture with your Nescafe coffee mug and tell us why you like working at Nestle or Nescafe, or like what inspires you when you drink a cup of coffee at work. So we would give prompts to do that for certain. So this created quite a bit of freedom. People took selfies. People, talked about their workday. So definitely do that. That actually will accelerate engagement. But I purposely didn't include that because it is a bit risky and not everyone is comfortable with it. But ideally, you would suggest prompts and give, let's say, content pillars and specific questions that will inspire your employees to be completely, like free and just express their opinion in regards to certain topics, because that will help even faster growth.
Amazing. And these can work for, at scale, of course, with bigger companies, but I'm also pretty sure that you can maybe start it a bit smaller also with a even with a startup is would be even easier, right? Because there are less maybe issues again.
They basically have a different framework for startups, which I've also done with SEO. So in case you want to write blogging, and we got really good results there, where one of our blogs was on the first page of Google and got thousands and thousands of traffic. So in short, here what I recommend you to do, let's say if you're a startup, you're a bit more free with content, essentially have a calendar for every week and decide what is your bandwidth, let's say. Typically with LinkedIn, it would be ideally 3 posts, one that inspires, one that educates, and one that informs, which means like talks about the news. So you're saying, okay, every week I need those 3 posts done. Again, something that inspires, educates, informs. So then you're saying, okay, we want to post about inspiration. So Rita, can you answer one of these 10 questions? And I mean, use ChatGPT, whatever it is. What inspires me in, like, what is so inspirational about, I don't know, working in my category, or maybe answer a question about what inspires you to get through the week. Whatever it is, basically give that person those prompts so they know how to write that post and they feel like they're answering a question versus writing something from scratch, which is very intimidating for any person. Then there's the educational content. You're like, okay, I want something educational there. You're like, Bob, I know you're an expert in, I don't know, the most fancy coffee machines on the planet. Can you write an educational post on how to identify like the best coffee machine and not lose money with your corporate team, or just be as technical as possible because this is an educational piece? And then that person writes that educational piece. And then last but not least, there's a third piece of content, which is newsworthy content. You want to write something about the news. You're like, oh, Jessica, like, do you mind looking at the news of the week and writing a piece on what is your personal opinion about, sales in coffee in the Middle East, whatever it is, and just write it and refer to the article or the news that you've read and, post it. So then you can do that. That way, again, you give very specific guidance to each employee what they write about. And every week, you essentially ask people to submit the content. So that's what I was doing for SEO for a startup once. And our target was one article per week. So every week we would have someone writing those articles, and myself as, let's say, the lead for marketing, I would edit those posts and sure that they're like super polished towards the end. But the whole meat was completely written by employees. So we had posts about a startup in tech. So we had posts about coding games and what does it mean to code with Python versus, another language, and what does it feel like to be a woman in tech, or like we had just all sorts of different pieces of content all written by employees. I would just polish them and help them, bring it to the platform. But basically, as long as you have these weekly kind of guidelines, that really works.
Amazing. Yeah, different tone of voice, different point of view, very specific and be consistent, right?
And it just helps you be very authentic because it's very hard. It's immediately, I think the reason we got traffic is because, well, one, it was SEO optimization, but two, it's because there were so many different voices. You could tell it was authentic. You could tell, even whatever, even there is that type where you knew that this was clearly written by a product manager from this startup. So you feel like, you're really connecting with this company.
I love this approach because I mean it's not gonna be that easy, I guess, right? To organize and everything like everyone be okay. I'm gonna do this week and everything. But I like this approach because yeah, it's easier to have maybe only one writer, right? But at the end of the day, either maybe they finish the ideas, or the writing style is gonna be the same, and maybe again you want sometimes a bit of diversity in that and having different.
100%. And here's a quick tip in case this sounds overwhelming. A quick tip to do this, maybe you can do a monthly one where you ask 10 very interesting questions. Let's say, like, what gets you out of bed, what's your favorite movie, whatever it is. And the employee just needs to answer these 10 questions. And then that could be part of your monthly piece of content where you're just inspiring people to join your company. Essentially, you're saying, look, we have these fun people and they all have these cool answers to these 10 quirky questions. That's also a way to truly connect at scale because where else will you get to, go and truly, read about what the company culture is like? That can just be really, really helpful. And here again, you just need someone to fill out the questionnaire and then someone to publish it.
Love it. Again, I would continue for like another good hour or even more, just go into all these tips and tricks because they're very, very practical. I already knew that this episode was going to be that full of it. But unfortunately we're, at time. But I wanted to ask you, Victoria, is there anything else that I did not ask you today that you are either like really looking forward to see in the world of social media? Is there anything else that we didn't ask you that you want to share with us?
Well, one, I do want to mention that if you're a LinkedIn fanatic or in general just really into content creation, even on other platforms, feel free to send me a DM mentioning the name of this podcast. And what will happen is the first 20 people that DM me, I'm happy to respond with a personalized voice note, giving feedback on your LinkedIn profile or whatever I see on your page and see as an opportunity. I love to do these because, again, it's all about personal connection. I don't believe that, it all has to stay so light touch. I love the high touch angle. So that's one. Two, I think something I can talk about forever is influencer marketing. And I think there's a very big emergence of B2B and how I'm fascinated how brands get to now use LinkedIn influencers on the platform. I can talk about that forever, but in short, I think it's a massive opportunity for brands. And if you're a brand that has a bit of budget, if you're B2B, if you're not investing in LinkedIn influencers, why are you not?
I agree 100%. We did actually, a few episodes exactly on that. We talk about very specifically on the opportunity. Still a sort of, I would say, a blue ocean right now, right? There is something going on and moving pieces, but that much more can be done. And I think that especially now in terms also of, of course, maybe pricing sometimes could be a bit higher than other platform because it's very B2B oriented and you're paying professionals, right? They might be sometimes a bit pickier, right? There may be someone on TikTok because you all have a reputation, right? So there are totally different rules, right? Compared to maybe many others, but I agree with you. It's a big one for like a lot of opportunities. And with that said, Victoria, thank you so much again for joining me today, for sharing all your knowledge, and also good luck with your next videos. I'm pretty sure that many others gonna go viral. So absolutely continue following. And we're gonna add your LinkedIn link also, of course, in the description. So as you said, anyone who want to connect with you can easily do that in that way.
Thank you, thank you. I enjoyed this so much. Honestly, great job on the podcast, and I really look forward to connecting more and hopefully see you in LA or USA or wherever.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much, Victoria. This was the Influence Factor by the Influencer Marketing Factory, and I'll see you next week.